Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Tom Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philocultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be discussing common misconceptions of martial artists. So, welcome back, Lin, again.
Hello.
Today we wanted to rip on martial artists, right?
In a nice way.
I'm just kidding. So common misconceptions of martial artists. Yes, I know, there's a lot of things people pick up in the movies and, other things that spring up from their mind about what a martial artist is, what a martial artist should be, etc., etc. So where did you want to start?
Well, I think, it's discussion's pretty hard to put out. I mean, where do we start with first? Just let people know that I'm in my office and students will be in and out, so there may be commotion behind. That's how we'll start this talk.
Start it with the discussion of commotion. Okay.
Okay, great. Now, basically, I really want to talk on what kind of misconception are we talking about here? And it's more about how a student views a teacher and how a teacher views themselves and what their views on expectations, their views and expectations on their students, and what basically they assume they have a right of, or what a teacher would assume their other people should be, or how other people should see them as.
They should see them as gods, right?
No. I mean, let's just talk no matter what you're teaching as a martial artist, you're still a physical education coach. You're just a teacher. In the court of law, if there is any in one's country, there is no leeway just because you have a title called the shifu. There is no leeway just because you're a title called sensei, or any other title that one has. Those things are only for the world of the martial arts, and though the world is big generally, the world of martial arts isn't. I mean, it's grand, covering every country, but I mean, it's not united in that aspect. And even if it was, just the title itself, or any title whatsoever, is only based upon the relations you have with the people in the martial arts world.
Well,
and those people...
We discussed the meaning of shifu and sensei before. Why don't we start off with that and just maybe what exactly does sifu mean?
Well, sifu is the Cantonese pronunciation of the word shifu in Mandarin, and it has two different types of characters. The first character of both words are the same. It's the character for teacher. Lao shi is the word for teacher, so shi is the word that I'm pointing out here. Fu, the same sound, but different character. One is just meaning someone proficient at what they do. Now, it's been translated as master or mastery, but that is really because Western culture, doesn't have a phrase that can really depict someone who has exceptional great skill, except saying unless you want to call the person who's teaching you exceptionally great skilled person, exceptionally great skilled teacher. Hello.
Even in Chinese, you hear the term tossed around for, say, a cook who's extremely skilled, or and I guess that sort of now becoming more popular in the English language, where you have like master chefs or master craftsmen, right, or whatever, right?
It just means that they have extremely great skill at what they do, and not that no one can top them, because still an individual's taste is specific to that person. So you can have a great chef cook a wonderful meal for me, and I may not like it only because I'm not liking my taste buds aren't accustomed to that flavor. Though they're a great chef in wherever country they are or whatever world it is, it still doesn't fit for this person's taste, and culture. So you'll have great chefs in America, but when they cook for people out in China, the people in China are like, I can't eat this. It's too much cheese. there's too much red meat in here. It doesn't fit. I don't feel comfortable eating it. So they could be great, but they'll be like, this chef sucks, because I can't eat this damn food.
One of the things I've noticed in my experience with different teachers, some of the teachers cling to these titles, like it's a badge of honor, right? It's almost like a decoration for their ego, right? Not all teachers are like that, but I've experienced some that are, and
Me as well. Some wear it on their shoulder and wear it as every piece of clothing, very obvious for people to see. But people who are not martial artists, um, they don't even care. They're like, so you teach martial arts? Okay, great. I teach ping pong. You know, it's like no big deal. Like I said before, you go in any court of law, and they say you can't put Shifu whoever on the statement or on the notice or on the petition for you to show up in court, because it's not a legal name, one, and it doesn't mean anything in the Western culture. Even the word teacher itself just means you are someone's teacher. There's some respect for that, but you're not held up as a god. And most people, they take this idea of the name Sifu meaning someone who's extremely amazing, has awesome skill, and I blame the movie culture for that.
yeah, that's just a Western thing, right? We sort of want some type of hero or some type of idol, so in our own minds, we build up our expectations of what these people should be.
Right, and there's a cultural presence in China when it comes to the word shifu. Well, we see it in the movies that people hold a person who's called the shifu, or in some type of high regard as a excuse me, someone of high authority. But they do that as a form of just what's the word? Manners, etiquette. This is their profession. This is what they do. So we'll be nice and call them, shifu. They do that out of just a mutual respect. It has nothing to do with them praising somebody for it. But when you see in the movies how the person who has the character with the title shifu, you see them as being portrayed as some great and center of the world kind of figure. And then that puts notions, or people make notions about this kind of title as anyone who has this title must be amazing. They must be extremely wise, and anything they say goes. Anything they say is right.
So, where does this? I guess, yeah. Like you said, the movies portray or sort of convey a lot of it. How deeply rooted is it in Chinese culture?
Well, if you practice the martial art, and someone finds out that you do practice martial arts, just out of respect, they may call you a coach. They may call you teacher. They may call you a shifu, meaning not the character. We said before, a shifu had two different types of characters. The fu character is two different ones. One is just for profession. One is for having taken disciples, taken apprentice. Taking being like a father figure to somebody. Now it's regarded because you are taking a responsibility to really give somebody what you have earned or what you have learned in your life. So it's regarded pretty high, but not like they worship. They don't bow on the ground. They don't, hold doors for you like you're someone better than anyone else. You're just a person who has a specific job that you do.
So what are like red flags that students should watch out for to avoid some of these pitfalls?
Obnoxious teachers, the obnoxious mannerisms, the I am great.
You just disqualified yourself there, Lynn.
There you go.
I'm just kidding.
I'm very obnoxious. Really, you got to look at a person's character. I mean, if one is trying to portray what culturally has been acted out as someone who has this title in China, then you have a myriad types of characters to choose from. I mean, because you have people who were and have been and are now psychopaths who have a title called shifu, who just like to fight people and beat people up. You have some people who maybe like to just stay home and write calligraphy all day long and don't really like to teach martial arts but have the title of it. You have some people who are very wise, well-educated, and intellectuals, but also well-cultivated, where they cultivate meditation and philosophy, and they try to become like a better standard of a person for their students and society. Okay, so we get to choose from a lot more than that. I mean, I don't want to be here forever talking about it, but we have a lot to choose from on who do we want to emulate. Well, the fact is that we don't really need to emulate anyone because that's not in our specific culture if one is not of the Chinese culture. Now, if one decides they want to take up that kind of lifestyle, then it's not just reading books about it. You really have to go into contemplative, a meditation. You got to contemplate what is that state of being this type of person, being in this type of lifestyle. What is that like?
Some
You know?
some martial arts seem to have a more strong philosophical framework too, like as opposed to others. Some of them seem very I don't know what the word is, fighty or very confrontational by their very nature, whereas other ones seem sort of non-confrontational.
It's just a path people have chosen to take with it. I mean, not many people click to a philosophy of, well-being, and we'll just call it the Taiji Chuan or Taoist philosophy. Not many people do take that, or even Buddhist philosophy. So they just like the idea of practicing a martial art to stay fit and to defend themselves and whatnot. And then they take it. Some take it to heart. Many just feel like you have to worship the ground they walk on because they can fight well.
Oh,
And fighting is not really really in truth. I mean, that's not really the most important thing in the world.
for me, like Tai Chi Chuan is more like the art of painting. Uh, you just sort of do it as a form of self-expression, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to wanting to go out there and beat the crap out of someone. I don't know what the advantage to that is.
When people do that, it's like they believe the best unto heaven. They're the greatest. That only their understanding is superior. This is when they want to go out and just be. They claim that they're better fighters. They just want to be great, or they want to take the stance that they are great, that they have great authority because of their views and the way they approach martial arts in general. It's very needed to have a wake-up call because just being a teacher or having the name Shifu doesn't mean you're great. It just means you have students
Okay,
and you have some type of skill level that is proficient enough that you can physically handle yourself against other types of martial artists. But at the same time, it must be met with having a proper conduct, a proper way of way of thinking, how you see the world, how you view people, how you view others. I mean, it's more about other people than it is for yourself. When you go further into the world of cultivation and martial arts, we have too much of punch the bag as hard as you can, kick it as hard as you can. How much pain can you take? Or, oh, I fought this guy and I beat him up, and this guy has nothing on me because da da da. Who cares? I mean, anybody, you can teach someone to punch any way that you want. Anyone can be great at punching that way as long as they practice it. It doesn't
oh,
mean they end up with that punch anyway in between when the punch got set off, when you thrusted the punch to the ending, the extension of the arm. There's so much more that can happen in between that. So anyone can be proficient in any type of mannerism, but it doesn't mean they're great. Great would be that out of 100 people who fight in martial arts, they've overcome 90, 95 of them.
I'll,
That's great, but that's just on a very mundane level of physicality.
I'll just throw this out there. Just curious what your take is, but when you practice certain qigong forms, or again even martial arts, sometimes you can find expressions of emotion kind of being drawn out of your body, like you could, and I guess it's just kind of psychic baggage that you've got kind of trapped in there that you're dredging out, knowingly or unknowingly. And I would assume that could affect people in bad ways as well, right?
Yes, emotional influence, especially when they're not paying attention to what's going on in the mind, really influences the outlook of the world on the practitioner. And they'll create notions based on that. Like one day they'll feel on top of the world, and then they want to keep feeling on top of the world. So they'll try to build up the notion of that they'll try to build up a philosophy of that feeling and try to live by that feeling. It's like the Coke addict who has one hit of Coke or two hits of Coke, and all of a sudden they're addicted to it. They want to keep having that high over and over again. It's pretty much that metaphor. People want to feel praised by others. They feel elated. They feel wonderful because other people feel great about them. I had this conversation with my students the other day, and he was one of them was asking me, how do I see other martial artists? I say I don't see other martial artists in any way or shape or form. How they come to me is how they're going to, leave their influence. I mean, if the person comes, saying how great their martial art is, or how great they are, or indirectly insinuating that they're better, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's just, it doesn't matter. And he just looked at me. He goes, "Well, I mean, you've used your art. You've done things with it." I said, "Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of hands-on, fights with people in America and in China." So he says, "Wow, that's amazing." I said, "No, it's not. That sucks." I really felt like that sucks. Why do you consider this amazing? Someone goes to punch me and I can stop them and punch them first? That's not amazing. That's not great. That's just the product of practice and conceptualization of what you're doing. It's just an outcome. It doesn't. It's like cooking,
I guess one of the pitfalls would be, in a lot of the texts, they caution that when you cultivate, you have to cultivate your body, heart, and mind, right? And what I think a lot of martial artists do is they focus so much on the body that they neglect cultivating the mind and the heart.
Yes. It's that they get taken by the subtleties of feeling elated, of being overwhelming the people they practice with, especially their own practice partners. They're like, "Oh, my Kung Fu brother can't affect me because I'm really great and better," or I went out and seen this person at this school and another martial art, they can't affect me either. I'm great, and they feel elated by that. They feel great that they're powerful. That's why you need to cultivate the heart and mind. You have to put those two into a very strong practice, because that feeling, that state of overcoming someone can really poison the mind. Then it's like a virus, it just spreads out to one's students and one's immediate environment and overtakes every other aspect of their life. I mean, for me, I told my student, when I practice what I teach, when I practice Kung Fu or whatever, that's the only time my Kung Fu is present. The fighting aspect is present. When I'm not practicing it, then it doesn't exist anymore. Every aspect of my life, other than the time, every other time of the day, I'm trying to focus on how I be better in character, better in behavior, better in speech. Okay, because if I'm not, then I will be having problems with people all the time. If you don't correct your behavior, your speech, you'll cause anger with other people, and they'll get haughty and throw a fist at you, and then you'll get to use your stuff. But of course, the more you practice using, the better you become at what you do. Yes, I believe in that too. That's why there's practice partners. If you live in environments where you are competing all the time, excuse me, or there's people fighting you, or the possibility of there being some type of violent situation, then you probably would get better at your stuff physically than you would more than other people would.
Yeah, another red flag I think we should mention, and I know we've discussed it in some of our other lectures, would be I don't know how to approach or how to say this softly, but some of these teachers try to take sexual advantage of their students, right?
Oh, yes. And there were some like reports in newspapers in the past several years about martial art teachers doing things to the younger students. I mean, like children students, and then adult students as well. I mean, it's so easy for someone to do something to a student and have the student assume that they're just being taught, or it's okay because the teacher's my teacher, and we're very close in this sense because we've practiced, how to save a life, how to defend myself. So it's like a very close feeling. That's how most people would want to say it, and it's very easy for a teacher to feel like they have some chance with a female student. And that's just wrong, totally wrong to do. Your female student is simply your student, which means you apply. Not many people would want to, and that's not in their culture. So what can I say what they should and shouldn't do? But since martial arts comes out of China, well, we're talking about Chinese martial arts generally. There's a historical mannerism of, seeing people as your family. So I have female students. I hit them, I throw them on the ground. I bear hug them and throw them and tussle, throw them in different directions and whatnot, and give them the fear like they're being attacked. And that's it. There's no feeling somebody up. There's no making motions to try to make the person feel like they're, something more than just a student to you.
So, okay, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying we should really understand that just because a person knows how to fight and is pretty proficient at it doesn't mean that person is okay 100%. I mean, I always use this analogy, about a cup of water with a little bit of poison is still poisonous water, no matter how much poison is in there. No matter how little the dose is, it's still poisonous. So if you're having a teacher who's like this kind of poison, you're going to get that too. It's going to be something on you too. And it's not going to be very obvious until later on when it becomes pretty profound to you.
So that was actually what my next question was going to be anyhow. I was going to say, what does someone do if they find themselves in a situation where they see a teacher exhibiting some of these red flags, but they've invested either a lot of time into it or they're really into that particular style and they're conflicted. What do they do?
I would say find another teacher of that style and go off. I have told my students in the past, if you go to any other teachers and you find that you like their mannerism of their approach of the martial art, but you can't stand them as a person, and you feel like you have no other choice because you truly want to practice the specific art, then study the art, don't study the person. I tell my students that now. I'm a specific way. That's my specific person. You don't study me. I have flaws like everybody else. Don't become a carbon copy of me. Don't become an emulation of me. Just take what I show you and then make it your own. Make that your own way. Don't apply anything I explain to you because maybe I'm wrong or maybe my character is flawed. Of course it is. Maybe some views I have don't work with you and you'll feel conflicted. So don't take my views or my theories, for the end all be all. If it doesn't make sense to you, if you don't like it, please don't go and do it, or don't even think about them. Just cultivate what I show you in a manner of practice. How do you apply this technique and that technique and the ins and outs of specific things that we do? And they just go, okay. I said, and if any time you feel that's it for you as being a student to me, then feel free to go on your own path. I totally support you doing that. I do it to all my students. Go if you feel I'm not, good enough for you anymore. Like I can only get you to a certain level. Go. I have more people who are higher than me. I will go and in skill. I will go and introduce you to them.
So hypothetically speaking, say you're studying an exotic style and you really weren't in an area that had other teachers of that style. Could you just take what your sensei or your shifu says with a grain of salt and keep practicing the style, or do you think that conflict is always going to be there and cause problems?
It will be a conflict because most times and not a lot of teachers find themselves associating with their students based on how much the students agree with what they think and say. So if a teacher likes to go out to bars and hanging out, and it's like, oh, come here, okay, guys, class is over. Let's go out to this bar and hang out and have a few drinks. And some students don't, but maybe 5 out of the 10 do. then those 5 students would be closest to the teacher, and the teacher would end up affiliating himself more with them and giving them more leeway because those students feel, they want to be around the teacher more. They feel like there's something else they can gain from that teacher. So they want to stay with them longer. And what does that do? Well, that just totally further kind of picture this. You have an aura around the person, and more people empower that person to feel like they're great or feel like they're wanted. So they would assume that that whatever they say, people will take. So their aura covers more ground. It reaches out to more people, and it helps to vibrate their aura in a specific level that you can just say like attracts like. So, it'll keep them on a specific state of consciousness. It's assuming that this specific way of the teacher is, that's cool because he's down to earth.
It's sort of a negative feedback loop, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, I had students that were, I said this before, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, some were rabbis, some had no religious practice whatsoever, some weren't sure what they wanted. But we all, whether they came out with me, if I went anywhere, maybe to get coffee or to go to a store and buy, like herbs or something like that, or have breakfast or so. And some all came and some didn't. But it didn't change how they were to me. They were still considered to me because I know how I wanted to live, and I know the kind of person I wanted to be. So I didn't want them to give something I don't like. So I gave them something that I like, that is just total acceptance. Whatever you feel you like doing, just like doing. And be with me on it or don't be with me on it. It doesn't change who you are. Or it doesn't change how you are with me.
I
you
guess,
give everyone equally.
Well, I mean, so far what we've been talking about is mostly people with discrimination or discriminating mind. And, with those people, there's probably hope. But what about the people that don't have discrimination? That's a real bad situation.
Mm.
Is there any hope for those people, or is it just they're gonna have to wait till karma catches up with them and they get their ass?
It's just a matter of time before, things that they do come to the forefront of their life. Meaning, either people accept and just put it aside what certain people do, or things just come out like a jack in a box, surprise, boom. And then people get judged on it. So we talk about this in the Shurangama Sutras, the 50 skanda demon states, that a person influenced by demons because they think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're built up to such a high point that they have so many followers to them. Then all of a sudden they just lose their pizzazz, and then the demon leaves, or that state is finished, and then their students don't believe in them anymore, or they get problems with the law, or they get problems in society, or they get their own specific internal mental problems, and it just wreaks havoc on them. It is just time. Some people can listen, some people don't.
Sorry, my mic was muted.
Oh.
What I was going to say before my mic was muted, or while my mic was muted, and I think this probably cuts to the heart of the matter. How important do you think meditation is for martial artists? Do you think that this maybe would solve a lot of the problems?
It could be a first foundational step. It depends on what kind of education they're getting for their meditation, what kind of method they're getting for their meditation, what kind of quote-unquote philosophy they're getting to their meditation. Then it would be beneficial to them. But meditation definitely is an important aspect. You must quiet the mind and, douse out the fire of physical practice and and just thinking so much. And got to cool oneself down in order to actually realize what's going on in the world.
Yeah, you'd have to, I guess, again, a lot of it comes down to ego, right? Anything that's building up the ego, more than likely is probably not beneficial for teachers or students, right?
Well, that's the ideal. The ideal is that a teacher would emulate humility with no insinuations whatsoever. So when you emulate humility, that means you're not insinuating that you're better than anyone else. You watch how your speech is. You watch how your mannerisms are. in thought, in speech, in mind, in body. You watch how these things are so you don't influence students in a negative way or in a way that causes them to do those things too.
Are there any, say, Confucian or Buddhist teachings that would sort of point people in the right direction?
You know, when you brought this up before, when a student or a person is with a specific teacher for a long time, and they start to see things that aren't going what they consider the right way, attitudes changing, egotism arising, and stuff like that. Confucianism, we have this thing that goes, when a parent or a teacher is wrong, the student or child, they should really try to find a way that points out their mistakes without putting them down, without hurting their feelings. Just kind of roundabout, but in a direct way, tell them without hurting their own view of themselves that they're wrong, telling them they're wrong. That's the duty of a student and child, to make sure their parents and teachers, are given a heads up as to what is the right way of doing things so they don't hurt others and themselves. Education is important. If you give a student the wrong education, no matter how old they are, they will accept your example and lead a life similar to that of your own.
Sometimes leading by example, right, is better than trying to force someone to go a direction they're not ready to go in, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Pretty much. You set the stage without putting out the teaching. So your teaching, your putting out the principle, is done by your example, and that would let people know what kind of person you are. I told my students recently, I'd rather you call me brother, like Goga in Chinese and Mandarin is brother, and 兄弟, it's like a same level brother, basically. So just call me that. I like that because it puts us in the same place, that we're both growing together. I'm not higher than you. We're just people when I have something you don't and you want it, and I really want to give it to you. So why don't we just do it that way? But after a few days, seeing them again and going through a few more classes and spending some time with them here and there, outside of the teaching of martial arts, which end up basically going back into talking about philosophy and how to handle your own emotions and whatnot, they end up calling me what they want to call me. They end up calling me Shifu. I say whatever you want because I don't even address it. I just go, okay, yeah, whatever. Like they'll call me, give me a phone call. Shifu, what's up? Like, yeah, nothing. What are you doing? This is kind of really basic. I learned not to water the seed of that kind of title. It doesn't mean anything. It just means the person regards you in something they consider to be worthy of respect. If we take the luster out of everything, we really get to the point of the use of the word.
Yeah, the founder of the Tai Chi Chuan style I practice, he was well regarded and he had lots of ability and lots of cultivation, but he did not want anyone to call him Sifu. He just wanted, call me Master Moy, Master Moy, sorry, call me Mr. Moy. After his death, he's since passed, but people now call him Master.
Well, that's fine. I mean, in Chinese culture, it's like when you're called like a Mister. When someone calls you Mister, it's a common title now. I mean, it's so common. But when they actually refer to you as Mister, that's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice regard, And well, for me, it's like, wow, I didn't expect people to really notice me. The other day, I went to look around next to my house for an apartment because I have family and students that stay with us, so I'm renting a space for them. And I went to talk with one of the people there about the apartment, and they're like, "Hey, aren't you, Mr. Lin, who teaches in the park right next door to us?" I said, "Yeah, I teach in the park once in a while." And they're like, "Yeah, we were all talking about you the other day," and we were like, "That Mr. Lin, Lin Xiansang, blah blah blah. That's what we call you, Mr. Lin. You are the Mr. Lin." And I look at him, I just like, holy crap! I looked at him, I said, "I had no clue you guys actually talk about me." Like, I teach in the park and I teach in the school. I don't do anything for anybody really. I don't deserve any kind of title like that. And they're like, "Oh, well, it's our own idea. We like this way because, and they go on to explain or whatever. No importance. But it shocked me because those things aren't reserved. I mean, they're not reserved really, and they're really utilized for someone. They're utilized by people to someone they find is not special, just shines a little bit. And I'm looking at him with this odd face, and I look at my wife and I say, "What the hell did he just call me that for?" Started laughing. She goes, "I don't know." I said, "Yeah, man, don't do that, please. Just call me Lynn. It's okay." you know. So I mean, these titles they don't do anything, but being called a Mister is a nice. It's just like, "Hey, Mister, Mister Oolong, how are you?" It's a nice way of greeting somebody, and that's how basically now in Chinese culture it's taken as a nice way of greeting someone. And then someone say, "Don't talk to me so formally, just call me this." It's another sense of Confucianist practice, which is calling towards humility. Now, you don't have to be so formal to me, you
Uh,
know.
I've got another question now, and this is going to be a tricky one because
Oh,
in the martial arts, you got to expect to take your bruises, right? So what happens if a student is with a teacher who's, say, excessively aggressive or excessively, maybe a little too rough in the sparring area? Uh,
if the teacher doesn't let it be known, then you have to bring it up to the teacher and let them know that this is a little too much. But if they say, okay, we're going to work and I'm going to be a little bit more heavy handed on you, so be prepared. It's going to hurt a lot. Are you still ready for it? If you can accept that, if it was told to you straight up that this is what's going to happen, that's fine. I mean, most people say, well, you're learning a martial art, you're bound to get hurt anyway. Yeah, but when you are prepared, when you understand that this is what's going to happen, then you won't feel as much pain. Then people can argue, well, in the street, no one's going to tell you this is going to hurt. Well, I'm not meaning that. In the street, you know that the person's going to give all they got to you. It goes without saying. So let's not mix up these two principles. The fact is, when I tell my students, okay, let's work on this technique, I don't say I'm going to apply a certain amount of pressure on them. I know what I'm going to give that's going to hurt, but not hurt so much where they're going to be in extreme pain or be extremely comfortable. So I do give a shot with enough force that they understand that there's some type of pain involved, and they go, "Oh my God, my arm!" Ah, and then they can walk it off. A few seconds later, it's okay. And I tell them it hurts. It's going to hurt more when I do it a second time. It's going to hurt a lot more. So be prepared. Then they go slower, and I say, "No, you got to go faster." I let them know, and if I say, "You can't take it," it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you don't like this kind of thing. But understand the street, it's going to be worse. There could be cracked bottles coming at your neck. It could be bricks thrown in your face. No, you must be ready for that. At least be ready emotionally and mentally. So in here, they're not going to break an arm. They're not going to break a finger or a nose or whatever. I'm not going to give them extreme black and blues and bloody noses. But they understand that they're going to take a certain amount of pain in class. They already understand that. It's said, it's spoken. They know what to expect. But if it wasn't expected and I just trip them while I pound on their chest and they go flying onto the floor, they're never coming back again. I expect that of them. And that's bad on me.
Hmm, I was just thinking, I mean, I've had experiences with people that are almost sadistic, like they get off on inflicting pain on the other person, whereas it should be it should be more like a parent has to spank a child or something. Not that anyone has to, but it should be a feeling of you don't want to do it and you're doing it for their own good, and it's you feel like it's hurting you inside more than it's physically hurting the other person to do it.
Yeah. The other day I did the gym I teach in, they asked me to do a demo for the community. And I took my two students and we just did a few, like I think it was a 4 or 5 minute demo. And it was just like a small practice demo and then application. So I told my student to go slow first and then speed it up the second time so people can see what's going on. So what happened was after we did it a few times in front of people, another application he went to throw a punch on me, and there was a breeze and it was very warm, and I wear contact lenses, so they dried up. And I couldn't see anything. So all I know was that his hand was coming right from my face. So I did what I did to him, and I bopped him in his chin on the side on his jaw with an open palm. And he realized that my hands came in too fast, so he moved his face accordingly. And when I hit him, I looked at him with wide eyes, And then I turned to the crowd. I said, "Okay, great, we're done. Thank you." And I walked down. I said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Oh man, I knew it was coming. I seen your hand coming too fast." I said, "Oh my God, he's coming too fast. It's gonna hurt." And I started laughing, and I looked at him. I said, "My contact's dried up. You know I would never hit you like that. I'm so sorry, you know." And I really felt bad. When I hit my students hard, I feel bad. I mean, I laugh about it when I'm doing it with them, so they don't feel, um, you know, inferior to what's happening. You know, some people have they feel like their self-esteem is hurt. And I look at them, and when they cringe, I cringe. When they smile, I smile. I said, when you hurt, I hurt. When you smile, I smile. You know, it goes both ways. So that's what happens. I really don't like feeling the hitting of my students at all. But if they ask me to, you know, that's just what comes with the territory. You know.
We won't mention any names, like Pat, for instance.
Oh. Yeah. He's good. I mean, I wish, you know, if anyone could find Pat. I have his contacts, but if anyone's lucky to find him out in New York, he's a good person to you know, study with for cultivation and some martial arts. Anywho, in that aspect, you must be very careful. The teacher takes delight in doing application and inflicting pain. You may feel like, oh, well, it's a martial art. I should be able to take the pain. And that can help you too, that outlook. But then understand that you're going to pass that on to someone else. And is it really that necessary to really take delight in hurting other people? That's why Tai Chi Chuan is really good, the principles in Tai Chi Chuan, because it's like at highest levels that when you hit someone, they don't feel pain. I mean, they'll feel an actual instance of pressure and feel pain, but it won't be the pain where it's debilitating, and they would feel extremely hurt.
All right.
Know?
Well, we're getting close to the show here. I was just wondering if you wanted to maybe leave us with some closing thoughts, or
Yeah, I would say for teacher, you know, a teacher can't hold the student's hands, not for one moment, not from the beginning at all. They just show a student how to use a tool, you know, basically what's a technique. And the student themselves must practice using it, understand it, and contemplate the various methods of using that tool. So proficiency comes by the person, not the teacher. The teacher cannot give one proficiency. Teacher just gives one ideas of practice. Basically, in martial arts, these ideas are very common. They're not specific to one specific style. I mean, you'll have certain ideas of practice, but overall, it's a martial art. And as a whole, those principles of practice can be applied to any martial art. You know? Like I say, for students, if you're feeling enforced to do specific things that are not in your cultural understanding or your cultural lifestyle, don't do it. And if the teacher won't have it, then leave. Seriously, I had students, I never pushed them to follow any traditions I chose to follow. I mean, I had all different types of religious background students, and I was used to lighting up an altar to Guanggong in the beginning of my classes, but I chose not to when I opened my own school. I did it before my classes, about a half hour before students came in. And we would have our lineup and we'd go through our practice and I'd go through explanation, whatever the case was for the class. But I had some students ask me, can I light up incense at the altar? I said, sure, do whatever you want. At any time of the day, any time of practice, that's up to you. You know, I had some people criticize me, say, well, that should be done at the beginning of class, that everyone should adhere to it. I said, no, I have Muslims, I have Buddhists, I have atheists, I have rabbis, you know, or Jewish people in class. Or, you know, it's not their cultural background. This is not something that must be imposed. This culture is for those who can accept it. And I'm not going to make them bow when their cultural background is not to bow. I'm not going to make them show reverence when their cultural background does not have them show reverence to these things. It affects them personally and mentally. So it's not my business to force them to follow. If they don't want to follow, who cares? You know? Because I don't want followers. I want students to be able to do things on their own. I mean, at one point, we are followers. But once we can contemplate the principle of what we're learning, we are no longer followers. Now we're showing the example. So followers and leaders are intertwined, and they don't exist either. You know?
That's it?
I mean, I can go on, but no, I think we hit the gist of it. I mean, it's basically you have a title, no matter what it is that you do, martial arts or not, you're not better than anybody else. You're just another person who has something that other people like. Just because one has a title does not mean their say-so and their outlook is the right way, is the only way. And for students, really should look at how the characters are of a teacher, the characteristics of any teacher. Anyone you feel you wish to look up to, be very careful, because just because a person knows how to use their martial art doesn't mean that person is an ideal person. And if you don't care, then that's not a problem. Then that's your own problem, you know. But if you are concerned with, you know, who's around in your immediate environment and what you want influencing your immediate environment and your mind and your life, then I would say keep a lookout for these specific things, okay? Egotism, number one. And if arrogance is up there, then number two. Okay? Insinuations of being better and liking to put the hurt on the students.
Or put the moves on the students.
Put the moves on the students, yeah. And following the pack, meaning if you don't go where they go, then you're not really in the crew, okay, or in the group or regarded. I mean, if you're being put down by your teachers, that's terrible. And just leave. It's not worth it. I'd rather you not study whatever you think you feel you really, really, really connect with, and it's not worth it. You'll find another path. You'll find another way or another teacher eventually.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right?
Well, basically, you know, people, we have to really understand what do we want to put in our lives. You know, that's all. Ask that question for yourself. That's all.
All right.
So
that's it.
Hope that shed some light on things. There's more. But
that's it.
Yes.
I figure if I keep saying that's it, it'll keep making you talk.
You know, it was because I just had another idea, but no, I think we cut it. We cut it very much to the point.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Well, as always, thanks for joining us, Lynn.
Thank you.
And for listeners, please be sure to join us next week as we discuss the Dharma ending age.
Yummy.
And to quote the final chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the sage...
Again?
I know. Again? I'm always quoting the final chapter. You know what? Just for the heck of it, do I have the Tao Te Ching up? I'm going to quote the second final chapter. Let's see what we got here.
He who goes to bed with itchy butt wakes up with smelly finger.
Yeah. All right, let's just try this random stanza from chapter 80. Let the people return to tying knots and using them. Savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, happy in their customs.
Wow, that's cute. I can't wait for that commentary to happen. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
All right.